Coming up on this episode of Up for Debate, we're talking our favorite comedy films. Matt chose The Goonies, I chose Airplane. What do we think of each other's films? Stick around, you'll find out next. This is Up for Debate, episode number 87, recorded September 13th, 2017. Our favorite comedies. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Up for Debate, the podcast that talks about a topic each week. TBD. I'm Shaun Jennings, joined as always by the man who knows his way around the movies, Mr. Matt Mariani.
How's it going, Shaun?
It is going great, Matt. And before we dive into the actual topic today, I want to tease because tonight is like, when you see the promos on like a real TV station and they're, coming up, it's a night of laughs here on NBC starting at 8, they do the promo thing. We're doing that here on the Faux Coffee and Beer Network because for the first time ever, we have a podcast doubleheader. If you're watching this program live, congratulations at facebook.com/UpForDebateTV, Wednesday nights at 7:30. Tonight at 10 p.m., we're doing a special Don't Panic episode all about the Apple announcement yesterday. So this is the first time we've ever done 2 in a day. You can get full live streams of both on the Up for Debate page and facebook.com/Don'tPanicShow for that at 10 p.m. So I'm very excited. I'm just over the moon about it.
Shaun, I can't help feeling like you're cheating on me.
There's plenty of me to go around.
You gotta understand from my point of view. I mean, I thought what we had was special. I thought this was like
you never said this was exclusive.
Relationship here where we do one show, and now you're telling me you have this other show, like behind my back, and you're going. It's like we're having a thing here, and then all of a sudden, oh wait a minute, I got to go to my next appointment.
But Matt, you'll always be Actually, I can't even say you're my first because you're not. You're my second. You're the side action.
Just rename this podcast Side Action.
Side Action. That's a much better name. Why didn't we come up with that?
Shaun and Matt.
But then people would think we're like a gun podcast, maybe.
Yeah, or some kind of acting podcast.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. No, sadly, we're just us here on Up for Debate. But let's focus on the show because we got a great episode coming up because, Matt, you came up with this idea. I think you just want to watch the Goonies again. Oh, you want to talk about our favorite comedy films. We each picked one. As I mentioned in the top, you picked the Goonies, I picked Airplane. We're going to dive into each. Now, I've been very upfront on this program. I don't watch movies for the most part. And so I managed to go my whole life and never see the Goonies. This was my first viewing of the film.
Yeah, that's actually pretty shocking even for you. I can't believe that you haven't even seen the Goonies. Everybody's seen the Goonies.
Including me now, which is exciting. And I took notes. Those on video can see my little handwritten notes there. You can pause your YouTube and read my thoughts, but we'll get into it here in a minute.
Doing, Shaun, I think last show I should have asked you to tweet. You should have live tweeted your viewing of the Goonies, because when you live tweeted Star Wars, that's still one of the best things I've ever seen.
I think my tweets too for the Goonies, basically what I wrote was my live tweets, and we'll go through them, so you're kind of getting the experience here, but they would have been funny, because I did have a lot of good and bad and interesting thoughts, I think, about the movie. We're going to start with the Goonies, I think, and then we'll do Airplane a little later. Now, Matt, I did not realize the all-star pedigree of this film. I knew almost nothing about this before getting into it. Do you know all the superstars who worked on this movie?
The only one that comes to mind is that Short Round from the Indiana Jones movies. He was the kid.
That is true. But I will also say,
what was his name?
Ki Hai Kwan.
Real name. What was his name in the Goonies?
Oh, Data, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
Right, but Data, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is horribly offensive.
Tell me about who are these other stars?
Well, first of all, executive produced by Steven Spielberg. Written
You gotta do that.
Written by Chris Columbus, who directed Home Alone, Home Alone 2, Mrs. Doubtfire, and wrote Gremlins as well as The Goonies. It was directed by Richard Donner, who directed The Omen, the original Superman, Scrooged, Lethal Weapon, and all of those movies. And it starred Corey Feldman, Josh Brolin, Martha Plimpton, Joe Pantoliano, Sean Astin, Robert Davi, a ton of people who went on to have relatively big career, probably Josh Brolin the biggest, but to all have pretty reasonable sized careers coming out of this. So for me, I was very impressed watching it, and I think it showed on screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that a lot of people, when 8 came out, a lot of people made comparisons between Spielberg's work film and compared it on his work in the Goonies. They pointed out some parallels and similarities, and there's some articles you could read online about that. Spielberg does a great throwback, like childhood.
Yes.
He has that nostalgia feel. He has that down pat. And I think that really, really shines through. Goonies is a movie to me that you could watch 100 times, new or different, and still be able to laugh every single time that you're watching it.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I really did enjoy it, though.
People that have souls, Shaun.
All right,
like
stop
people
that.
That have souls in their hearts. They would be able to laugh at such a movie.
But not me. I'm cold and dark and empty inside.
Count yourself one among them, but
not a chance.
How did you enjoy the film?
I enjoyed it. You know, I will say I do have some specific points I want to talk about, but I'll give you my overall thoughts, which are, it really made me pine and wish for a time when movies didn't have CGI and they had really good scores.
Learns to rhyme. Because that rhymes. Because you did.
Oh boy. Okay.
And then you did time.
Anyway, to strive for a time when the when movies were really well shot and really well directed, and they used actual sets and not blue screens, and it just was a good. And I felt this way watching Star Wars as well. Maybe I just need to watch more older movies, but Star Wars did this for me as well, where it's like it's just nice to look at. There was something very cinematic about it. It was a movie. And I really enjoyed that piece. Like I said, the music was really great, I thought. The shots were really well. And it was fun. I wholeheartedly agree. It was a genuinely fun movie. However, that being said, the plot was so flimsy. It was so lightly threaded that it could have fallen apart at any moment. And I know the movie really isn't about the plot, it's more about the characters, but nonetheless, the mystery element was very weak. And my one other complaint, the movie clocks in at right around a little under 2 hours. I felt like it would have done better as like a 95 or 100-minute movie. I felt like it was a little long. I frankly, and I know you're going to have feelings about this, I would have cut Sloth completely out of the film. I don't think, it really added nothing to the mystery, and did not add much to the characters. It really only added to the runtime. So I would have slashed that, and I think it would have been a better movie.
That's like the sense of adventure, and like they find this guy.
But it's weird. It has nothing to do with the mystery or the plot or anything.
He has the best character arc in the whole movie.
That is a big stretch, buddy. Come on, stop that.
Best character arc in the entire movie. He's so misunderstood. Like this monster, and then he saves him in the end.
I disagree. Chunk has a much better arc.
It's great. Chunk.
At the
how does he?
At the beginning,
he has a good arc, but
at the beginning of the movie, he's seen as the sort of like joke of the butt of the joke, and then by the end, he saves them like 100 times, which I wrote here. Chunk is too handy of a plot device. That would have been one of my tweets. Because literally at every opportunity, he just is conveniently he trips over something, or he says something, or he bumps into something, and the plot happens, which is very annoying, because that to me is a little bit of lazy writing.
I kind of agree with you on that one. They could have spread the wealth a little bit. I mean, these are all children. Actually, like one of them could have done something clumsy and stupid to advance the plot. I don't know. It doesn't really have to constantly be Chunk, but
He reminded me a lot of Melissa McCarthy.
yeah, I could see that. The male child version, the boy version of Melissa McCarthy.
Um,
Hashtag truffle shuffle.
Not a great dance. But I do say I laughed so hard at the shot where early in the movie when they're doing the little police chase opening, and he is at the arcade or the restaurant or whatever, and he goes up to the window and just smashes his milkshake and pizza up against the glass. That was a really good moment. I laughed at that.
Good. I thought it was a terrible waste of food, but
it's prop food, Matt. You couldn't have eaten it anyway.
I was probably hungry the first time I watched the movie, so. But yeah, you gotta love those characters. Those characters are so endearing.
Well, I think they're very typical archetypes. I mean, I don't think they're radical in any sense of that, but I just think they're decently acted. I think the characters are given something to do. I think by the end they end up being charming. I do want to talk about Data for a second, because why is the Asian one called Data and has all the gadgets? Can I just say that's in 2017 that doesn't feel okay?
Because it was the 80s, Shaun.
Is that also why there were like 8 Rube Goldberg machines in this movie? That seemed like a very 80s thing too. Every kid in the 80s had a Rube Goldberg machine they built.
Right. That was a very 80s thing. Remember the game Mousetrap and what a wide success that was?
It's a crazy action, a crazy contraption. The fun is happening. It's Mousetrap.
Yeah. How everybody was able to put that thing together and have it run successfully.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the house, all they do is they use it to open the fence. Like, it was the most unnecessary piece of elaborate equipment I've ever seen. There was no... That's what a lot of this movie was like, why is that there? Like, why do the bad guys have a freezer full of ice cream? Like, some parts of it just don't make any sense, which is okay, but it's weird.
Who does love ice cream? Everybody likes ice cream. Even the villains love ice cream.
Can we talk about the villains? Those were some A+ 80s goons right there. Like Home Alone level goonery, like well done. And was it who played the woman? Anne Ramsey, who played Mama, she was awesome. She was so great in this.
Yeah, the villains. A lot of it, like you said, watching that movie, it reminds you very much of Home Alone. It's it's very apparent to see where the influences came from. The movie.
I also wrote A+ Prison Escape. I'm just going chronologically now. Doing the fake hanging. Great idea. I don't know why more prisoners don't do that. That was well thought out. Good plan.
Charlie Dufresne should have just tried that.
It would have worked every time. I also wrote, do these kids not know the word dynamite? Like, I don't know how you pick up a bunch of sticks of dynamite and think they're candles when they're clearly labeled dynamite. It said dynamite right on them. I mean, I know that they're children.
Well, because they don't read anything. I see that every day. Kids don't read. They don't.
But this was the 80s, Matt. They didn't have computers. All they had was reading.
Yeah, but they were on an adventure, to be fair. Like they were in a cave and there's all kinds of exciting things around them.
But isn't that when you want to be paying attention to details, when your life is on the line?
How are they supposed to read things in the dark?
It was well enough lit that I could read it.
Audience, Shaun, so we have special powers that the people in the movie they don't have that. So I'll give them a pass on that one.
I am not.
However, I don't think I can give them a pass on the part at the end of the movie where they don't keep all the cool treasure.
Yeah, that was kind of a crappy... By the way, can we talk about the treasure for a second? Because I like to sometimes think I'm smarter than the movie. And in this case, I literally thought I had figured out the plot before it happened. This is what's fun about going to a movie you don't know anything about. When they are going through, what's the name of the old man who went into the cave back in the 30s and they find a skeleton?
Uh, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, you know what scene I'm talking about though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, and they're going through his book, and they find a Lou Gehrig baseball card in the book. It's a small
Yeah.
detail, and then he takes and puts it in his pocket, and they leave with it. I swear to
Hmm.
God, I thought the plot of the movie was going to be they find the treasure, some catastrophe happens, they don't get to keep the treasure, but then they realize they have the baseball card, which is worth millions because it's a Lou Gehrig baseball card, which would have made a cool ending. I
Damn.
blew
Yeah,
it.
and then it gets totally forgotten about.
And
They
I
don't
was
even
like,
bring
I
it
thought
up
it was so smart. I'm like, oh, of course, like that's like the little secret there. And then at the end, he pulls it out. He had it the whole time.
Holy crap! Forgot all about that scene. That would have been a good ending. Yeah. That why didn't they should have totally used that.
Although I kind of
Wow.
enjoyed it more that it wasn't the case, and I felt like, wow, the writers really outsmarted me by just doing the obvious thing. They just secretly kept some treasure. Like that's, I don't know. I kind of appreciate it more that they left it in there and didn't use it than if they just hadn't included it at all. Because it's a weird
The
detail.
treasure
Like
was
it has nothing to do with the movie. So why is it even there? It's got to be to fake out the audience.
No.
No, you just think I just am overthinking it.
I think you're overthinking it a little bit. I think that had they if they were ever to remake the movie, I think that would be a great way to end it. Some kind of callback to that. I can't believe yeah, more people didn't see that. I definitely didn't see that. Kudos to you,
It was just a weird one.
Sean Jennings.
That's very kind.
Yeah.
Although I did also write, how does the map not get ruined by the end? These guys fall into enough water and slime and get beat up, and at the end the map is like fine. I said every time they got wet, I'm like, you're ruining the map.
They had it laminated. They went to the Kinkos and they had it laminated before they went in.
Smart, they're thinking.
Hmm.
I appreciated how, again, like in every 80s movies, the bad guys, despite having many and plenty opportunity to just kill the children, never actually do. Like, they had them within gunshot many times. They had him at gunpoint on the pirate ship. They could have just killed him. They've proven they can clearly kill people. But for some reason, they just didn't. And that always bugs me about 80s movies, especially with like kid capers, is they never kill the damn kids.
Well, it's because they're kids, and showing kids getting killed in a movie would be really bad.
And the ending would be terrible, but still.
Also, I like to believe that these all of these henchmen in all of the '80s movies have a specific disorder, where they have to, like, it's like a nervous tick. They have to divulge the entire plot of the movie before they do anything related to killing, maiming, or taking down a character. Like, they have to just get it out there. They have to blurt it out. It's almost like Tourette's. Like,
and it's always like,
thing.
hey, boss, remember how we were supposed to go and rob the Bank of the Jewels and then hide them down in the vault? And, it's like, you're right. They always have to do the plot.
Yeah, I like to believe that each one of them has that. It's like in the DSM. It's like,
they learned it in Gooning school.
yeah, exposition disorder, immediate exposition disorder.
I wrote a very well preserved ship for being in a wet cave for over hundreds of years.
Yeah, that part I might have had the biggest problem with that.
Oh my god, I laughed the hardest when the ship sails at the end, which is the most 80s baloney ending. Yeah. Like the cheesy bad ending. As soon as I see the music, because I figured they'd like find the ship or something, but it just like for no reason is just sailing, and you're like, what the fuck?
Well, it's just the 80s. Now, you know what this movie didn't have?
What?
Can't forgive for an 80s movie. Um, where was the movie action montage? Was there a montage in this movie?
Um, no. Oh, you know what? There was the one Cyndi Lauper song that they played during the early in the movie, but it wasn't really when they were biking, when they left the house the first time and were biking out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But it wasn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't really call it a
It was not
montage.
no, it was not them accomplishing an action other than biking. Uh, where were they going? They were biking to the arcade,
No,
or
no, they were biking to the. Was it a restaurant? The Lighthouse?
yeah, the lighthouse.
Yeah.
Um,
But also this
yeah,
movie.
I would not montage.
This movie, I wrote in my notes a classier Home Alone because it didn't the music, it had very little actual songs. It was all instrumental. Really, the Cyndi Lauper song, which later played over the credits, was really the only sort of noticeable song in the whole film. I mean, they really did avoid those sort of tropes.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, they had a whole bunch of other ones in there though.
Oh, for sure.
The Goonies.
They had the town has a wishing well that's an actual working well. Who has that in their town? Even for the 80s, that's a stretched concept.
Wishing well.
Like
You
an
don't have a
actual
wishing well?
one. And underneath it is like you can look down and see a giant cave filled with like running water. Like, what?
Well, obviously you've never been to
Oregon, right?
uh where is it? Oregon?
It's Astoria, Oregon, which was beautiful,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
By the way, do you know why they're called the Goonies?
Because they goon around.
No, there's actually they live in the Goon Docks neighborhood of Astoria, Oregon.
Oh,
Which
are you sure that's like they didn't name the area after the movie became famous?
it's that's what Wikipedia says, so you can
I'll believe it.
take your
That
word
would
for
make a
it.
lot of sense. I thought they just gooned around and that's why they were the Goonies.
It's not in the film, so that connection
Yeah.
is really only made outside the movie.
I don't know. I liked watching them goon around. It's a good film.
They were a bunch of gooners, gooneries.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought in the end it was,
Yeah.
I will say I really did enjoy the scene with the main character Sean Astin, with One-Eyed Willie on the ship when he's kind of has that very personal moment. And he's talking about how he won't steal his treasure, he'll steal the other treasure, and he respects One-Eye Willie. I thought that was a nice moment in the film.
Yeah, that's like also something that Spielberg seems to excel at is building up a conflict or building up some kind of problem that we first encounter early in the movie, and then by the end of the movie the encounter is not only solved, it actually turns out to not be think it was in the beginning. It seems to like the nature of the villain. You see that like in ET, for example.
Which I've never seen.
That doesn't surprise me.
And it
But
shouldn't.
um we see it again in Super 8. We see it again in, it reminds me of To Kill a Mockingbird with Boo Radley, right? Like kind of build up to be this villain or this specter, if you will. Usually some kind of like around them, but we unknown, we automatically associate that with something terrible or something terrifying, and then it turns out to not quite be the case once we have knowledge of it. All of Spielberg's movies, in a way, it seems like they're all about growth. They're all about growing, and they're all about gaining that knowledge.
Well, I also think it's interesting that he also in his films that I've seen, which is this one. I'm trying to think if I've seen any other Spielberg films. Probably not. No, Raiders. I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I think that's it. Um,
That's just fun. Raiders is just fun. All
we
all
could
the
talk
new
about that
movies.
for an hour. Raiders,
Fun.
for my money, is one
Just
of the
called
best
having
crafted
fun,
films.
getting treasures and shooting Nazis.
It's just end to end a great movie.
That's what it's
Like
about. Yeah.
you can't pick a flaw in it. It's just a really almost near perfect film. And my favorite Spielberg film, because I've seen two of them and I liked it more than the Goonies. But anyway, so I will say that another thing Spielberg does too is it's a story about kids told by kids with kids. There's almost no adults in this movie. Very, very little. You have the funny Mexican maid, and you have like the father of Mikey is in like that one waving scene at the beginning and then only at the end. I mean, really the only adults are the goons, and Mama, but that's about it. It really is a movie just starring kids, which is interestingly enough, Wikipedia says director Richard Donner noted the difficulties and pleasures with working with so many child actors. Apparently it was quite difficult. There's actually a documentary, The Making of the Goonies. I'd like to see that at some point.
Yeah, that I can't really. I mean, that's again the parallels with Super 8. A lot of child actors, or very few adults in big roles, and you don't really see too many movies like that.
I agree. Not anymore, certainly.
Yeah, and it really was kind of revolutionary for its time.
Yes, it was. So we're running a little bit out of time on the Goonies. I'm just looking to see if there's any things I did not talk about. I wrote fakest looking rocks ever. That cool shot where they walk into some rocks and then the camera pulls out and it's in the shape of the skull. That was cool. That was cool. I went, wow, that was a nice shot. The kids fall through a lot of things. They're very good at falling through floors and collapsing rocks, and there's like a water slide in the caves for some reason. The 80s rich asshole country club owner at the end is spot on. I love those characters in 80s movies. Those are great. Let's see. I think that's I wrote these kids suck at sneaking around. They're very loud and very bad at it, and they like talk at the top of their lungs when they're supposed to be secret.
Well, they're not Navy SEALs, Shaun. They're like.
Well, but there's no consequence to the action. I'm not saying they're quiet. I'm just saying they should get caught. Like, if you're going to be that loud, you got to pay for, the price. All right. I think that's about it. I did write, why would there be a novelty laser light in the attic? They go into the attic with all of his father's stuff, and there's like those Spencer's Gifts kind of like funky light, like it's some kind of artifact. That was weird. Anyway. I think that's
just because the adventure.
That's pretty much
adventure movie.
My thoughts. I would say overall, I really enjoyed the film. I would watch it again. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. I think what I enjoyed least about it was the plot, but what I enjoyed most about it was the visuals, the music, and the characters. I don't know, Matt. I know you're gonna say you love it, but even more detailed. What's your final judgment?
Much like my thoughts about Indy, it's just fun. It's a fun movie. The plot doesn't matter as much because it's fun. It's just fun to watch. It's your typical adventure flick, action adventure. Kids going on adventure, discovering who they are along the way, and finding some loot, some treasure, and growing, because it's all about that growth. I find it one of the funnier movies, especially the Truffle Shuffle. I think that's hysterical. I could watch the what's the other part? The other part where he they're at the end and the guy saves the day. The troll looking guy.
Sloth.
Thank you. Sloth saves the day. I could watch that over and over again. One of the greatest moments in film. But yeah, that's That's my thoughts on the Goonies.
Very good.
I
Good.
understand that your pick for a movie was one that I've already seen,
Yeah, we couldn't
Airplane.
we couldn't find one. You know, my selection is so small. Odds are good you've seen. Although now, have you seen Caddyshack? You've seen Caddyshack.
I actually have not seen
Oh, we should have
Caddyshack.
picked that. I love that movie.
Really
Oh
should have picked Caddyshack.
no.
I've never seen it. People reference it all the time, and I do not get the
Oh
references. Something about a
no.
groundhog
Oh shit. You got to
being.
go see Caddyshack. That movie's awesome.
Isn't Rodney Dangerfield in that?
Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray. Oh, it's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I got to see Caddyshack.
I own Caddyshack on Blu-ray. It's one of my favorites. So we will do a supplement follow-up where we talk about Caddyshack. But in lieu of a better alternative, we went with Airplane, which is probably my favorite movie, my favorite comedy of all time, for a couple of reasons. One, it's just really funny, but also two, like most old people of the time, my grandfather used to tape movies off of television with the commercials, and we would watch them back. And we must have watched his VHS taped copy with commercials of Airplane 1,000 times, constantly. Could quote every line from that movie. I actually do still wish I had that copy with the commercials. I don't. And what's funny is it was the cut for TV version. Not so. It wasn't until, no joke, I was like 16 or 17. I saw the DVD version, which has a lot more of like the sort of dirtier jokes. They cut some of it for the so I had seen like not the real movie my whole life. So that was a fun moment.
That movie must have been what, like, for TV?
Yeah, it not that much, like
Like,
a few minutes worth was cut, but enough where you're like, wait, was that in the movie the whole time?
I was gonna say there's just so much that they would have to take out to make it clean for movies. Like every joke seems like it wouldn't make it on air.
Yeah, well, like I remember one of the big ones was when the shit hits the fan and then the shit literally hits the fan. Like that was cut from TV, for example.
Yeah,
I also realized while watching it that I have a flying anxiety. I hate flying. I find it very uncomfortable. And something clicked in my mind. Could it have something to do with the fact I've seen the movie Airplane 1,000 times and I saw it 1,000 times before ever being on a plane? I wonder if subconsciously that has something to do with it.
it might. It definitely didn't seem like it. I, you know,
Yeah, it doesn't paint airlines in the best light. But again, I will say this is another movie with an all-star pedigree, not quite as all-star as the Goonies, but the film was written and directed by David and Jerry Zucker, the Zucker brothers. David Zucker went on to create the Naked Gun franchise and direct Scary Movie 3 and 4. Jerry Zucker went on to direct Top Secret and directed Best Picture nominated film Ghost with Patrick Swayze. It, of course, starred Robert Hayes and Julie Haggerty with Leslie Nielsen, Robert Stack, Lloyd Bridges, Peter Graves, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a lot of great actors of the time.
yeah. With the movie Airplane, it's one of those comedies where everyone has their favorite moment. So why don't we just go ahead and share our favorite moment from Airplane?
I got
What's the
notes.
joke that will just kill you every single time?
Um. Oh, by the way, I did write. I will answer that question, but I did write in my notes all the cut adult jokes, and then one specific one that I didn't even remember until this viewing, which is where pilot Over is standing reading a magazine before they do the ham on five hold the mayo joke where he's talking on the red phone. And there's magazines where it's like men's, women's, and then there's a whacking material section and it's pornography. That was cut from the TV version. And I don't even remember seeing that joke until I watched this version. But my favorite jokes, there were a lot. Probably one of my favorite more subtle jokes that I don't even know if a lot of people realize is when they have the little like toy model plane that they fly when they cut between scenes, they show it, and they have propeller sounds despite the fact it's a jet engine. Like that is such a subtle joke that I appreciate it more because it's so like just well thought out. Captain Over, Joey, do you like movies about gladiators? Joey, have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Have you ever been inside a Turkish prison?
Have you ever been inside Turkish prison? Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue. I loved later. We're just gonna list all the lines from Airplane, aren't we? When they're doing the like cut between all the TV stations talking about the impending disaster, and there's the guy who says, "Shane, they bought their tickets. They knew what they were getting into. I say, let them crash." And I don't know why I find that particular line funny, but it reminds me a lot of like news today, where it's like there's always someone with that hot take, like, the Titanic sinking. They were getting on the ship. They knew what they were getting into. I say let them sink,
Yeah. It's so true. Like, my moment cracks me up is when the main character,
Stryker, Ted Stryker, Robert Hayes.
Yes, played by no, that's not. Is he the main character? Well, it's really hard to pick a main character. Don't Call Me Shirley.
Oh, Leslie Nielsen.
Thank you. I don't know. I'm terrible with names.
That's
today.
Okay.
Leslie Nielsen. My favorite joke of all time is in the whole movie. Remember, we're all counting on you.
Good luck. We're all counting on you.
And he says, "Good luck. We're all counting on you."
And he keeps coming.
And he pops in like just every once in a while. Good luck. We're all counting on you. And then he does it again after they land the plane. Good luck. We're all counting on you.
Well, I wrote down Leslie Nielsen is surprisingly dramatic. When probably 2/3 of his lines are jokes, but some of his lines, he's the one who has to deliver the exposition. Like, I have to tell you, everyone on this plane is sick, and if we don't land in the next 6 hours, people will die. He's surprisingly dramatic in that role, which I really actually appreciated his performance more so than some of the other actors in the movie. Now, I'll say my favorite character, at least most understated character, or like not as well remembered, is the character of Johnny, who's the airport employee who has all those great one-liners. They're handing the airport, passengers set to die, hundreds may perish. There's a sale at Penny's. He has all, what can you do with this? He hands him the map. Well, it could be a hat or a brooch or a pterodactyl. He has all the best lines in that movie.
Yeah. Quick one-liners. Those are always fun.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as himself, which is really funny. And my dad says, you don't try really hard until it's the playoffs. Well, you tell your old man to bust his ass up and down the court for 45 minutes a night.
Yeah. I apprecited that. It
was a weird cameo, but they played it well. And he was actually pretty good too.
And then they got for the Naked Gun, they got O.J. Simpson, which was that Naked Gun or Naked Gun 2?
Naked Gun had O.J.
Yeah, it had O.J. Simpson. Yeah,
that's another great movie. I almost could have picked that too. Naked Gun is awesome. Another line, and this was one that was changed for TV, I learned later, where it's the very gaunt-looking young lady and the young boys carrying the coffee. May I sit down? Sure. And she says, would you like anything in your coffee? I take it black. And in the TV version, they say, like my old man. But in the movie version, they say, I take it black, like my men. Ooh.
Oh.
It's an aggressive line.
Little, and very progressive for the time. Subtle change.
Let's see. The Girl Scouts fighting in the flashback in Calcutta. And that's like, no shit, like that's an aggressive screen fight. Like I've seen maybe just movies today, they don't fight as hard. That was like an aggressive fight sequence. It was awesome.
Yeah. The scene with the where they play basketball. That was a pretty crazy scene.
I mean, you could go on and on. I will say about the film overall, not the best directed film. Especially after watching the Goonies, I watched them in the same night back to back. Not a very well directed film. It's really more about the script and the jokes than it is about the direction. It's not very well directed, but the music, that really dramatic dun 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 dun, that evoking the movies of that era, is really great throughout the movie.
Yeah, it was good. That's a good little motif. But it's true. It's it's one of those first quotable movies where you could just sit literally for hours with friends and just go back and forth quoting your favorite line. It almost reminded me, like, I don't think that it reminded me in many different ways. At first, it reminded me of lots of like early Adam Sandler movies, like the slapstick and just the pure comedy of it. And then I thought, like, you could never really get away with doing a movie like Airplane today.
Well,
I really don't think it would be possible. I think that too many people would try to get their hands on it and make it play to a more mainstream. It would ruin it, and it wouldn't be as funny.
I'm gonna name a modern movie that, while not as good as Airplane, to me is no, that evokes, because I think Airplane works in two ways. One, yes, it's just a string of one-liners, Naked Guns like that. It's just a bunch of jokes strung together, which is great. I think anyone can really do that. But I also think it's a good parody of the sort of films of the time. The disaster films were, Towering Inferno and The Poseidon Adventure. Those movies were very big at this time. That's really what this movie was parodying. And I think a movie that works well, where it's tight packed with jokes as a parody, I'm going to give a shout out to Talladega Nights, which I think is a bit of an underrated film. Talladega Nights, for my money, is one of the best, like, straight up parody films of the last, I don't even know how long. In recent film history. I think it does. I think it's not a perfect movie, but I think it's tight. I think the jokes are relatively solid, and I think it does a really thorough job of the sort of parody aspect of that slice of culture.
Yeah. In the same vein, I'll give a shout out to Scary Movie and Scary Movie 2. I think they did a great doing, kind of venturing into uncharted territory.
I agree.
Clearly with the inspiration of Airplane, and parodying horror movies, modern horror movies. And then I guess they kind of go off the rails. You have like Epic Movie, and it seems like they're trying to, like, check boxes on a list.
They're making money,
Right, exactly. But the original Scary Movie and Scary Movie 2, a pretty good job.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Also, this is before Airplane, I believe. Not 100% sure, but movies from the Mel Brooks movies, Blazing Saddles, Spaceballs.
Oh, sure. Well, he's the master of parody.
Yeah. Fantastic parodies of their genres.
Yeah, and this came out right in the middle of, this was pre-History of the World Part 1, but post High Anxiety silent movie. So you're kind of right, post Young Frankenstein. So you're right in the middle of his run.
The influences, the Brooksian influence.
Yeah, this movie, this has to have more jokes per minute than almost any movie. I think Naked Gun is close.
Apparently, the record it broke the record for in a movie, or most maybe it was most jokes or most laughable moments, something like that, in a film.
Well, it was in 2010. The film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry at the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
There you
So
go.
you don't have to take our word for it. Visit your local library.
People will be watching Airplane in film studies for years to come.
I think they will. You know,
The alien, when humanity ends here on Earth, when the aliens find our charred corpses, uh, one of the first things they're gonna watch is Airplane.
and I'm okay with if we're judged as a species by the film Airplane. That's not the worst thing. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 97%.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Now, I do want to make we're not running out of time, but we're getting low on time. I do want to make a couple other points about the film. One, Ted Stryker, the main character of the film, there played by Robert Hayes. He's a terrible pilot. I don't. If I was in an airplane and he was the only one left to land it, I would not trust him. They set him up as being a terrible pilot. He clearly was not good at the war and did a horrible job of landing this plane, which really shouldn't have been that hard. It was clear conditions. There was no reason for him to just break the goddamn plane. The other point, the love story really doesn't pay off for me in the end. That's one thing. I get it's a joke movie and you're not really in it for the love story, but they spend this whole movie talking about, they set them up at the beginning that they're breaking up and they've distanced and they do all the flashbacks and then in the end they're kissing on the runway. And by the end of it, I'm like, I just didn't buy them getting back together at the end of the movie. I just didn't think they did enough to earn that sort of send off. But I guess this really isn't the movie for that.
Yeah, I don't think it was about that necessarily, about the jokes, and I think they just needed to wrap it up with a neat little bow.
And they did. And I think the only other thing I'd say on Airplane are just there are so many jokes I want to mention, and there's just not enough time because there's so many good ones. But the red zone is for loading and unloading, and no, the white zone is for loading and unloading. That's a great bit. What did it look like? Well, it's a big plane. It's a big white plane. It's got a stripe down the side, curtains in the windows. It's got wheels. It looks like a big Tylenol. That's a great line. When all the reporters say, "Oh, let's take a picture," and they grab the pictures off the wall, and there's just you could just go watch Airplane instead of listening to us because I just appreciate this movie. It's just sometimes comedies try and get a little high and mighty on themselves, and I think Airplane is just a funny movie. It's not very well shot. It's not super well acted. It's cheap looking, but god damn it, it's funny. And you're going to laugh many times throughout the film. So that's what I enjoyed about. Any final thoughts on Airplane, Matt?
If anything, the Airplane kind of proves that it doesn't need any of that stuff. It just needed to be well written. The laughs will come. They will laugh. Pretty much Airplane. Highly recommend it. Easily one of the best comedies of all.
Yeah, I think between the pair of us, I think we picked a really good set of films, two very different films, which I think is nice. And I think you can get them both streaming right now. You can go check them out, The Goonies and Airplane. And Matt, I think we'll do this. I know we kind of started saying our favorite movies, but I said comedies, so we still have, we want to do our favorite dramas or our favorite documentaries. We still have some time to, in the future, we may do more of this type of show where we just dive into things we really like.
Yeah.
But that's about it for this episode. Now, I will say, Matt, we will not be having a show next week because I will be in Tucson, Arizona. But hopefully the following week, Matt, our next episode, our first ever book club, which was your idea, Matt. And you want to tell the folks at home the first book we'll be reading?
We will be reading Ready Player One.
Yes, Ready Player One, written by
the guy who his name I'm looking up right now because I read this book on Kindle. Finished it ago. And it is Ready Player One.
I'm not digging you out of this one. You got to look it up.
It is Ready Player One. I am not ready. One. There we go. It is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline.
Ernie Cline, there you go.
It was written last year. And it's his first book ever that he has published. And we will talk
Matt, you froze up there for a second, so I'm just going to keep talking, and hopefully we'll get you back. I'm amazed we went this long with this not breaking down, but hopefully we may have a special guest for that episode. We haven't had a guest on the show in forever, so that'll be very exciting. You're not going to want to miss that. That'll be in 2 weeks. As I also mentioned, we'll have a new episode of Don't Panic. If you're interested in tech, the latest episode, which will be on the feed soon, all about what Apple announced. New Apple Watches, we've got Apple TV 4K, and we've got the iPhone 8 and iPhone 10. So you're not going to want to miss that as well. That is it for this program. We're going to get out of here and let you all go home. We hope you enjoyed this discussion. Let us know what you enjoy us talking about on the show. We don't know until you tell us. You can let us know at Up for Debate TV on Twitter. You can tweet at us or send us an email. upfordebatetv@gmail.com is the email. Of course, this show has a website, upfordebate.tv. You can go there and get all the episodes, past, present, and future. Very exciting there. And, of course, all the places you can hit the subscribe button. It gives you all the places you can get the show. Anywhere you get podcasts, including Apple Podcasts. And the video version is on YouTube as well. And as I mentioned, we do it Wednesday nights at 7:30, except next week. But the best part is to go and check out the website. So there you go. That's it. We're going to wrap it up. Matt just texted me. His computer battery died. I don't know why I didn't plug it in, but that's okay. It makes it show a little more fun. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next time for a brand new episode of Up for Debate.